XM MLB Network Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, now singing the Mike Ferrin Open, it's Mike Stibbs.
Just make sure it sounds sexy, Stibbs.
Lord Almighty, how can you stand Arizona? Your fair skin must be burning down into your absent soul. Mike, 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 we can barely hear you. It sounds to me like you called us from inside a hole. But your phone calls lift me higher, like the ERA of Mark Pryor. Your hair looks like it's on fire. You're Mike Ferrin.
I feel uncomfortable.
What's wrong?
Well, we're watching the old Olympics here on the big screen.
Yeah.
Ever since, was it Greg Louganis who bashed his head on the? Ever since that happened, I hate watching platform diving because I'm afraid someone's going to cronk their head against the concrete. It's not good. Mike Ferrin, Sirius XM MLB Radio. I'm sure you've been watching a lot of Olympics lately.
I actually haven't. And normally I'm a big Olympic fan, but I have just not been able to figure out which property team handball is on because that's really what I care about.
Handball, big handball guy.
Dude, team handball is the best. It's fantastic. Like that's
it's a very fast-moving sport.
Yeah.
Is it as good as badminton?
No, way better. Dude, I'm telling you, team handball is awesome. It's a bunch of combines the best parts of basketball and soccer with a lot of 6'8" Eastern European players. Like it's crazy athleticism, like outside shots, there's shot blocking. Like it's cool. It's really, really cool. There's even a PlayStation game for it, which I have.
So there's a PlayStation. You know it's good when it has a PlayStation.
Hell yeah.
I mean, the
team handball
now have a deal, and they got a PlayStation game, so why not? All right. Well, I'm going to have to check this out.
You're not going to. You're
right. I'm not going to check it out. It's the Olympics.
Do you not care about the Olympics, John?
No, I don't care.
Mike, we have a drop from you somewhere in the system. It might be deleted. Where you're like, John doesn't like the Olympics because he doesn't like watching foreigners compete in something. And it's one of my favorite drops. And it's a very astute
it's not because there's foreigners all over the place. People from not the United States.
So what is it? You just don't like supporting America? Is that why you hate the Olympics?
I don't like the Olympics because there are sports I don't really care about.
Yeah, but this is the one time every 4 years you pay attention to it. That's great. It gives you you watch it. Pride. You're like, cool. And then in 4 years again, I'll pay attention to gymnastics again.
The last 2 years.
Sometimes, John, I'm like, you know what? Go America. Other times, I'm like, this is the country I live in.
Mm-hmm.
This time
that
of
tells
year,
me everything I need to know.
Well, you're the one not watching. You're the one who just ripped on American pride.
I'm not ripping on American pride.
You literally just did.
No, I didn't.
You said, have you been living in this country the last 2 years?
Well, on that note.
Hi, Mike.
It's the trade deadline.
Baseball.
I hate it when you two fight.
Well, then you hate our show.
It happens all the time.
Notice I don't listen.
Yeah, well, understandably so.
Well, it makes sense.
We talk too much football for your taste.
No, it's not too much football. It's too much Nebraska football for my taste.
Well,
I don't live in Nebraska.
Hey, listen, there are a lot of people in this state that would like it if we don't talk Nebraska football.
Do you think they'll rejoin the Big Eight now?
Well, I'm just glad it's back to being the Big Eight.
For now.
They need to not do anything. Everyone's been talking about, hey, they need to add 2 more teams or 4 more teams. No, they need to stay right here. Then they are the Big Eight again.
There is a chance if they do regional realignment in this new SEC that we basically have the Southwestern Conference again. Like it could be Arkansas, Texas, like A&M. Like it's like all of the. I guess Oklahoma wouldn't fit into that, but I'm very excited for SMU to join the SEC just so we can get the swag back.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. Speaking of loving it, the Mariners fans are loving it.
I was going to ask the Mariners question.
Oh,
damn it.
I mean, Dylan Moore, that pinch hit 2-out grand slam last night. The Mariners are on a roll. It was just, listen, I know Ed a lot better than I know Scott. It was cool to see Scott Service. He's high-fiving. He's pumping his fist. I mean, I thought the Service family was kind of reserved a little bit, but man, they are on it. So now I have to ask the question. They're a game out of the wild card. What moves do you see them making? I mean, what do they have to offer? What can they get? What do they need to get?
Well, I think there's a couple things that play with them. They can play in whatever end of the pool they want to because they have a deep enough farm system that they can do a lot of different things. it doesn't generally make much sense to push all of your chips in for a one-game playoff, which is where they stand right now. They're a game behind Oakland for the second wild card. So instead, you probably look at some low-cost rentals, probably in the bullpen. There may be somebody to help stabilize the rotation. But they're also opening up a contention window. So if there is a player that fits for multiple seasons that could be available at the trade deadline, either offensively or for the rotation, I think that they would certainly have to be considering that. They'd been linked to Whit Merrifield a couple of days ago. It doesn't sound like that's really going anywhere, but that's the kind of player who has 2 years of control beyond this year that they could be looking at. They need to get better offensively. Second base is probably, a spot to focus on for them. They need to get a little bit more depth in the rotation. And I think that they certainly could, pry away a controllable starter from someone by using some of their prospect capital. Baseball America had them with 4 of the top 14 prospects in baseball in their latest re-ranking, the top 100. So if they really wanted to go deep, they have the players to be able to do that, to add quality major leaguers that are going to line up with this window of contention. So there's a lot of options that are available to the Mariners, and I expect that they'll be pretty aggressive. I mean, they have the longest drought in baseball right now, without a postseason appearance. So I think they will probably be, I think you'll see some minor fringe moves to try and help add depth, but I wouldn't be surprised if they make one significant splash of someone who's not a rental, but someone who could help them for multiple seasons.
How funny is it, Mike, that the Mariners are finally having a good year right after Stibbs quits on all of us?
I mean, I think that's probably the reason why.
I do too.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
all
all
sense.
Stibbs has always been a quitter. That's why I like Nick. He doesn't quit things yet.
No.
Nick's just he's sitting. Nick is strangely on the Rockies bandwagon. He's like, I'm strangely a Rockies
and he
fan.
bought the sock hat or whatever.
Sock puppets.
The sock
the Burlington
puppets.
Yeah,
Now
I got a sock puppets hat too. I also have a Diesel Otterbots hat. Yeah,
they're pretty cool. And he bought a baseball randomly. Remember that? He's like, I got.
Oh, I forgot to get you your Star Wars baseball.
They had them?
No, I don't think so. Sorry.
I don't know why I like the Rockies. It just felt right, and I hate it, but it felt right. So I'm a Rockies fan.
My producer for Sirius is a Rockies fan too. He's a tortured soul. But he was there when Dinger was born, so he's got that going for him.
Dinger.
Mike, I'm going to a Rockies game in a few weeks. I'm going to get to see him play the Padres. I'm pumped.
Hey, it's a great ballpark. It's one of my favorites.
I haven't been since,
love.
I saw the Padres the year actually they went to the World Series in the late 90s. Tony Gwynn didn't play that day, so that sucked. But Coors Field, great time. I'm very excited.
Yeah,
well,
and Lodo is awesome. Go to Cherry Cricket across the street for good burgers.
Yeah. All right.
You've got a suggestion. Speaking of the Padres, they made a move late last week by picking up all-star second baseman Adam Frazier. There's the rumor mill says they're looking at Joey Gallo, maybe even looking at Max Scherzer, and there's a possibility Hosmer could be on the trade block as a chip to use in this battle. Meanwhile, you go down to Tampa. Of course, they've been eyeing Scherzer. Now the latest is they're eyeing Chris Bryant. It seems, at least to me, with 3 days to go, Mike, it's San Diego and Tampa that kind of hold the keys to that blockbuster deal that we like to see in these trade deadlines. Does that make sense?
To some degree. I mean, I think Scherzer gets moved in the end, which I wouldn't have thought even 2 weeks ago. So I don't know that it necessarily has to be one of those places. I think the stuff with San Diego, a couple of those things are independent of each other. They're not using Hosmer to try and pry somebody away. They're trying to get rid of the salary commitments that they have to Hosmer. And they likely have to attach one of their top prospects to him in order to get somebody to take on the salary. He would get 10 and 5 rights at the end of next year. He's got $60 million after this year that's owed, and he's basically been a replacement level player for the 4 years that they've had him. So I don't think that those two things are necessarily connected so much as that they're trying to shed future payroll commitments, and this is a chance for them to do it. Now, that said, they do covet Gallo. And I was just talking to somebody this afternoon who seemed to think that Gallo was probably their number one target. He's got a relationship with AJ Preller going back to Preller's days with the Rangers. The Rangers president of baseball operations, Padres president of baseball operations, went to college together. There's a good connection there. So, I suppose Hosmer could be part of that kind of a deal to try and, extract a better prospect out of San Diego or a better package, but I don't think that they're necessarily connected to each other. The Tampa Bay stuff is really interesting, and I would think that a lot of that is predicated on the teams that they're dealing with eating the majority of the salary that's remaining. But if you are the Cubs or you are the Nationals, you want Tampa Bay to be involved because they have the deepest farm system. And the fact that they were willing to give up 2 quality pitching prospects, and Joe Ryan has one of the best minor league fastballs going to get Nelson Cruz, I think that is a pretty interesting development. So they're probably not going to be able to take on cash, but they have the prospects that make it easier for teams to be able to eat that money, to be able to get a better return. So I think that they'll certainly be in the mix. We'll see whether or not they pull the trigger on somebody like Bryant, or if they go to maybe a more secondary piece like an Eduardo Escobar.
Mike, going back to Scherzer, where would you guess he lands in all this?
That's too early to tell, I think. I think we've got about 48 hours left. Before, from what Ken Rosenthal said, that they want to get something done because they've got to go through, he's got 10-5, right? So he's been in the major leagues for 10 full seasons, at least 5 with the same club, which gives him the veto right. It's the Santo rule. And so they have to kind of get things going ahead of time to be able to create some tax incentives, some sort of financial incentives for Scherzer to be able to accept the deal. So I think my guess is in another 24 hours, we'll know more. I would keep an eye on the Giants in it. I think he's certainly a natural fit for them. I would not be surprised if they played in the high end of the trade market. They have a legitimate chance to not just win that division, but then potentially go deep into the playoffs. So, upgrading their roster at the top end would be a focus, I think, for Farhan Zaidi, and they have a very deep farm system. Now, unlike Tampa Bay, they have very deep pockets, which means if you're in a position where a team needs to get rid of money, San Francisco can help you to get better players and probably give up lesser prospects. They have a deep system, but a lot of those guys they're going to want to keep too.
You mentioned Zaidi, who is the Dodgers GM. His counterpart in San Francisco is Scott Harris. I know that
Zaidi's the president. Zaidi's the president of the Giants.
President, sorry. Well, but we're talking.
He was with the Dodgers. Yeah,
right. We're talking front offices here. We know that these teams are rivals. We know that they keep an eye on each other. But the Dodgers, of course, have already won a World Series. They are always thinking World Series, and the Giants have been there, somewhat recently as well. Do you think there's that front office chess game going on? Because these are the 2 teams contending for the West, probably contending for the number 1 overall seed in the National League playoffs. Do you wonder what the chess match is right now as these teams watch each other specifically for what kind of moves they have to make?
Yeah, I think it's probably more the Dodgers trying to watch what Farhan Zaidi is trying to do with the Giants, because I think, Andrew Friedman knows Farhan pretty well. And he knows how creative and intelligent he is. And he was probably a little bit scared to let him go to San Francisco in the first place, So I think that's probably, if I were the Dodgers, I would be listen, the Dodgers are going to try and add a piece that helps them. They need some position player depth. They really need a starter, even if it's not at the high end. But they have a pretty measured take on the trade deadline. Farhan was part of that group with LA, but we haven't seen him in this position before. And before he went to Los Angeles, he worked in Oakland. And the A's, when they have a chance, have a tendency to push in chips. So is he more likely to follow the Billy Beane model? I think that's a distinct possibility. And if he does, that should make everybody in the West a little more nervous, because I don't think he's quite the gunslinger that AJ Preller is. I think he's got a really strong process. He's an excellent executive, and I think they will definitely add pieces that will help them down the stretch here.
Mike, speaking of the Dodgers, I wonder what you thought of the LA Times report about Bauer and the players not wanting him back. And I mean, we had a question in What You Say, I think, a few weeks ago about, are we going to see him on the field again this season? I mean, only 2 months left in the regular season. What are you expecting now to happen?
Yeah, I don't know that I can, make a prediction. I think it's tough to see. Let's see. I believe his his leave was extended until the 9th of August. This is administrative leave, so he's paid while the investigation is ongoing. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing for him that his teammates don't want him around. But, I mean, listen, put yourself in the same workplace environment and see what's been written. Would you want that guy coming to work? Probably not. So I think, I mean, they may not have much choice in the end if they have to honor the contract and bring him back. I don't think that they're just going to release him and eat the money. Maybe they do, and then they say grievance be damned. But, I don't know that I looked at it with shock that players didn't want him in. I mean, players have wives and daughters. And, I think most people tend to be upstanding citizens and human beings, and they read that those allegations with a grain of incredulity that somebody could potentially do that to another person. So I certainly would feel very similarly, to the way those Dodgers players felt if I had a coworker that were accused in that manner.
Does that pretty much make Dave Roberts' decision, if it came to that? Let's just pretend that they somehow are able to clear this at some point over the next few weeks. Have the players made the decision for him that, hey, listen, clubhouse culture is more important than our starting rotation, and we can't have this guy back?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the end it's up to the front office to make that determination. And does he end up impacting? Like, is he going to be a distraction to his teammates, or are they just not going to like him? I think. Listen, it's a far more complicated situation than I even am probably giving you credit for, just based on the fact that we're dealing with guaranteed contracts. I think in the end, they probably see some sort of continuation of this leave, and it doesn't really, impact their roster over the course of the season. If they do, I don't know that I can predict what's going to happen. I'll be curious to see what they do, but clearly this is a very, very serious matter. And I don't know what we'll get out of the hearings August 2nd, 3rd, and I guess 9th, right, are the final days that have been scheduled for the hearings on this restraining order. If there's more information that will come out that will add more clarity, I would assume that we're going to be kind of in a state of limbo for a while with this.
Well, as the Cubs and their fans await the word of where Chris Bryant ends up, at least we got last night, and the longest walk to first base in the history of Major League Baseball. Did you see this? Did you hear?
I was watching the Olympics.
So Javi Baez walks off the Reds last night against Emil Garrett, who is one of their top relievers. They have had a thing going for the last 3 years.
Someone in baseball is triggered? No way.
They've had this thing against each other for the last 3 years. There was a benches clearing incident earlier this season. It didn't even start with Baez. It started with Anthony Rizzo, but that's another story. But he hits the walk-off, a deep fly to center field. It takes him, and I think Jeff Passan actually timed this. He said it took 16 seconds to go from home to first. And while he was doing it, and I don't know, could you tell Mike what he was doing? It looked like he was using the bat to mimic he was rowing.
I think it was. So that's what I thought too, is that he was rowing his way to first, but it was a response to Amir Garrett's sweeping motion after the Reds swept the Cubs the last
time. All right.
So Garrett definitely does not mind playing the heel. I love Amir Garrett. Awesome dude. And he loves to there's an in-your-face element to him. Remember, he took on the entire Pittsburgh team, the trade deadline a couple of years ago, right? So he's ready to go, right? So he's dishing it out. And last night he had to take it. I don't think he was too happy about it, but nobody's too happy about it when he dishes it out either. So I thought it was good theater between the two sides.
Hey, for a fan of a team that's, bazillion games out of first place and got no chance in hell, I'm here for this.
More trash talk.
If this keeps me interested, at least in my team,
yeah,
I will stay with it.
Team trash talk.
I am team trash talk. And of course it's Javi, and Javi's going to do Javi things. So.
By the way, Mike, Amazing Daniel agrees with you that handball is fun. He says it really looks like just highly athletic adult gym class. I tried to switch over to floor hockey, but I couldn't find it.
There's floor hockey this year in the Olympics. I would totally watch that.
I would watch.
Do they have scooter football?
No.
Did any of you play scooter football in gym class?
No. No, because we actually used our legs in physical education.
Yeah,
No. These okay. So
Lazy.
you actually used your legs. So we sat on these. I mean, they were just square things. It was like a square
four wheel.
skateboard.
Oh, for
And
those,
you
yeah.
used your legs to push around, and you played football.
We
on these
smashed our
scooters.
fingers so
Yes.
much on those.
It was really dangerous, but it was
Not safe.
great.
I remember those things. I don't remember playing football on them.
Same.
but-
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember those things.
Yeah, we played scooter football. You know, when it was one of those days, you know, we were supposed to be outside doing something, but it was raining. And so
I hated those days.
Yeah, but the gym teacher would pull out the scooters and say, we're doing scooter football. And we were like, yeah.
Recess is canceled.
I was a bigger fan of bombardment on those days. That was the one that I liked.
Bombardment.
Yeah,
is
it's a
that
little
war ball?
It's a little bit like it was a little bit like dodgeball kind of. It's very similar.
What was the difference?
The name.
See, that's the thing. You called it bombardment, dodgeball. Of course, the movie made it. We called it war ball.
I think you actually had to. I think you had to with bombardment. There was an element of like being able to throw a Nerf football through a basket for points. If I remember right.
Wow.
Gym class. What a time to be alive, man.
The late Denny Matthews. He taught us some great stuff, and then he'd give you this. You go 2 for flinching, monkey bumps, and then give you like bump you on your arm. That guy was awesome. Love that guy.
Did you have fun in Chicago, by the way?
I did. I had a great time. It was
It
great.
looked
My
like
brother turned 40. His daughter turned 7, so we had some good family time. Really nice.
Was it you, Mike? I saw somebody. I think it was your tweet about last year. It meant like no fans and what it looks like today.
Yeah,
and
that was your tweet.
That was you, right?
Yeah. Sophia Minier, who is the Brewer sideline reporter, had tweeted a picture of Wrigley from opening day last year, which was I guess a year ago Saturday or a year ago Friday.
Yeah.
And there was nobody there, and so I had the same angle because I happened to be there to show that it was 37,000 on Saturday. So, it was a lot nicer having fans. So now hopefully everybody is safe still. So.
Yeah. Enjoy it while you can.
Yep. Enjoy indeed. All right. Well, we'll see what happens at the end of this week. Friday at is it noon or is it 1? The trade
4 Eastern.
4. For some reason I can.
It's noon in the Pacific Ocean.
Noon in the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, 11 a.m. Hawaiian time. I think
there you go. Yeah.
All right. So 11 a.m. Hawaiian time on Friday, the trade deadline. We'll find out who's going where and why. Mike Ferrin, Sirius XM MLB Network Radio. Thank you, sir.
Bye, Mike.
We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
There he is. Mike Ferrin joining us live on the video stream.
Well, technically, actually, it's 11 a.m. Alaskan time. It'd be 10 a.m. Hawaiian time. Hawaii, I believe, is 6 hours behind the Eastern Seaboard.
Okay.
I was looking up time zones yesterday.
I don't know why, but
I can tell you real fast if you'd like. An Alaskan won a gold medal in swimming, and so they were showing her high school. She was she just graduated, 17 years old. And so there was a watch party at her high school. I was like, I wonder what time it is in Hawaii. Her mom was recording the race with an iPad. It was hilarious. Olds just destroy me sometimes.
Well,
you can go on YouTube and watch it. You don't have to record it with your iPad. She's holding up the iPad. It's like, just watch it.
Well, but maybe she's recording it and then she turns to the crowd and it shows the reaction.
She was recording the video.
Right, but then when the video's done, you then turn it around to the reaction of the people.
She was like dropping it because she was hugging everybody. You don't have to defend it. You can just say, yeah, don't do that. That's weird.
Or maybe you can stop being so anti-old all the time.
I love the olds.
You obviously don't. You just rip them. When they fail at technology, it's funny. But I'm going to Denver to visit olds. I'm excited to see my grandparents. I don't think they're excited to see you after what you just said.
I mean, they're probably not listening
if you get off the plane and they're holding up the iPad to record you getting off the plane, are you going to mock them?
Yeah, not to their faces.
Not to their faces. Did you hear that, Grammy and Grampy?
No, they're not listening.
Did you hear that, Oh, that's right, because they're too dumb. They don't know how to dial up a stream.
No, I didn't say that. They're probably doing other things.
My God, Josh, you're just ripping your grandparents. Are you sure you want to go on this vacation?
I'm pumped to go on this vacation.
I don't think you are anymore.
I'm going to go watch Tatis. I'm watching some baseball, baby.
That's not why you're going.
Well, going to a cocktail bar.
We know why you're going.
What? Because I want to visit my family, John. My family. And other stuff too.
Stuff too. All right, we'll come back and we've got more, including some thoughts on all the weirdness. And yes, today it was made official.
Uh-huh.
Today it was made official.
6 days later.
things really do move faster these days than they did 10, 20 years ago. My God. Remember, it took months to get to this point in 2010. It took 6 days.
Yeah.
Incredible. 16:20 the zone.